Welcome back to the Sikastan Ministry of Internal Affairs Dissemination. This,
Insemination.
of course, is a video brought to citizens, and we just got to be sure of all of this information coming to Sikastan is, in line with party policy, and all of today's stuff is in line with it. So today's video is actually inspired by Zach Talander's recent spate of videos. So he's just been kind of commenting on a couple of different things that happens in the strength world, or random things that even related. He's done like Joe Rogan things, and we were doing the one on the really heavy muscle snatches, and then we saw the video of Lou being really skinny, and then just before we started recording this video, like literally just before, Akbar of the 246 competition. So we were like, look, we'll get them all in, we're going to comment on all of them because they're all pretty interesting and funny things. So first up, let's just talk
About baby Lou.
let's talk about who the fuck is this.
What the fuck?
It's insane. So
Do you have the tab open of old Lou?
I've got Seb old. Here's old Lou. This is last year.
Like-
at Asians.
And go back to the new one?
Back again.
What in the world has happened here?
It's the loss of, like, not only the upper body mass, like here, but it's the lack of circumference in his legs.
No, to all the delusional children who thought Chinese weightlifters were clean, please tell me now you've changed your mind.
I think some people still won't change their mind. They're like, nah, he just stopped training and stuff.
What?
I think, like, so this is so strange, even for someone who would have kind of stopped training and someone who would have come off cycle on or performance enhancing drugs. This is still,
This is drastic.
it's very, very strange to see. So Lou obviously was a former 81 kilo lifter, and as we saw from last year, was in incredible shape, an absolute stallion before. But now, because the 81s are no longer a Olympic weight class, there is the 73s, and of course Xiaojun has the 73 kilo weight class on lockdown. So is it likely that Lou has gone further below 73s and has gone even maybe in something into the 60s? Because there's no way he was beating Xiaojun at 73. There's no way I could see him doing that.
I just don't know. Like, that level of atrophy is so severe.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I don't. That's more than just stopping training and stopping drugs. Like, I don't see how you could be that skinny that quickly. My own personal.
Well, we haven't really seen him in over a year nearly now,
Yeah, but still, in a year, that's a lot of time to lose. Or, sorry, not a lot of time to lose that amount of muscle. Mm-hmm. Particularly when it's someone who's had that amount of muscle for so long.
Yes.
Like, he's years and years of muscle transcription built up. My own personal favourite Dara Fitz conspiracy theory is that this is Lou's doppelganger, who they get to do his urine samples. So I have a feeling this guy is clean as fuck.
So it might be just a strategy where they know they have a long time before the next Olympics. They know they have plenty of time. They know how fast Lou gains back weight. They know if he's in a lighter weight class, he doesn't have to gain back as much weight. Apparently, he found it hard to stay up at the 81s. He found it even hard to keep his weight that high. So this could be a way of just kind of getting down to the weight class fast, using plenty of time to build into his new weight class. So obviously, as you get older, speed seems to decline, if not purposely trained. This is different from individual differences. So from person to person, lifter, and sport to sport, this speed decline may not happen at all, or it may happen. It's obviously a trainable state. And so weightlifting, of course, is a mix of force production and speed. How fast can you express your strength, and not just how much strength you can express. Lou obviously has been very strong for a very, very long time, like Fitz was talking about. Need a lot of muscle mass. So maybe their concern here is his power to weight ratio and cutting down in that weight class. He'll still have a lot of the benefits of that high force production he's had before. Even if you can't do those 1RMs right now, you still keep some of those benefits, those kind of attributes you gain from high force production, essentially high strength training, doesn't go away forever. Like, a lot of it remains, especially when the use of performance enhancing drugs are involved. So it may be a play to keep him very, very fast, or primarily it could be Lou just didn't want to train for a year.
Yeah.
They know he needs a lot of time for his body to recover from training, and if he's going for another Olympic quad, well, 3 years at this stage, 2 and a bit, it might be just wanted a longer period off. This is akin to when Ilya used to come off, and there's that photo of Ilya on the beach with the clock off, and Vasily Polypinov, and Ilya, it's like, the meme at the time was like, this is what, you may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. And it was so funny because Ilya never looked like he touched the weight,
Yeah.
So this could be,
This, to be honest, I think this is more severe.
yes,
Like, this is Paddy the Fatty but crazy in the opposite direction, you know. Like his ass and quads used to be phenomenal.
Yeah,
I don't get. I think if you put someone in a bed in a cast for 12 months, they might look like this afterwards.
Yeah.
Like that level of atrophy, but that's impressive.
Maybe it could be just this angle too. Like it could be just a super. It could be just make it look extra bad.
Yeah.
Another aspect here as well, of course, is that there's an argument to be made that not only in elite weightlifting is it important to have genetics related to power and speed, but how well you respond to performance enhancing drugs. And it could be that, you know, he obviously responds incredibly well to them, and so we see huge drastic changes when he's not using them and not training. So that could be a possibility. All cards are on the playing the table, but at the end of the day, I'm rooting for Lou. I'd love Lou made out Olympics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
This just plays into that soap opera even more, you know. Mm-hmm. It's already that he's going to be one of the oldest people in weightlifting at the games, and now he's going to have gone through this. He's not even Lou 2 anymore. He's like Lou 4 now.
Yeah, like,
you know, like
if he made another Olympics, it would be incredible.
Insane.
The comments are like, they massacred my boy. And of course he is nearly 40 and stuff, but that is true. But I think we're going to see him. I think he'll be drastically different. In 6 months' time, you won't even recognize this dude.
You won't actually recognize this dude because it's not Lou.
It's the same person.
This is that guy can piss into a sample cup from 4 meters away.
This is the Lou. Look at him.
Lou.
Look at him. Oh my God. What a stallion. No, I'm all about Lou. Lou is and always will be one of my favourite lifters.
100%.
So I want to see him. If he come back to that again, it's so fucking impressive.
Oh my God.
Now, moving on to the original purpose of today's video was this video of this incredibly heavy muscle snatch from one of Lou Huanhua. So 113 kilo PB muscle snatch. And there's an argument to be made, so there's kind of two different camps in muscle snatches. So there's one uber heavy as possible, like we see the Chinese lifters do a lot. Or we see people like, for example, some Eastern European countries will only do muscle snatches, which are of high levels of technical proficiency. So the technical proficient model, or the difference between two of these in terms of position, is that in the technically perfect model, we'll see the elbows stay as high as long as possible. As they pass the head, we'll see those elbows turn high, and the turnover will be very fast and smooth. Now, what we have here is what Gabriel would call a very fast muscle snatch and press. So you'll see a turnover from here and then a pressing from eye level. So this is two different kind of camps in relation to what is better and what is more useful.
Yeah, I definitely in the camp of like lighter, more technically perfect muscle snatches are more useful. But I think it's in some way disingenuous to compare those to the really heavy muscle snatches. I think it's more preferable, or it makes more sense to compare these really heavy muscle snatches to using snatch pulls instead, you know, because I think if you compare weight distribution of a snatch pull versus weight distribution of a really heavy muscle snatch, you'll get a lot better work done with the muscle snatch than you will with the snatch pull. You know, a lot of the time for doing snatch pulls, we'll go over our 1RM, so we might be at 100% or 110% of our snatch 1RM. And once you start pulling on those, and particularly once we've multiple sets and reps done, our weight will really start to shift back. We'll start to see that shin angle becoming more vertical. We'll start to see the weight sitting more on the heels than will in the midfoot or towards the front. And that kind of natural shifting of weight from the front of the foot back towards the centre, back to the front again, won't really happen on a snatch pull. Whereas it will on these. These will be very, very useful to kind of train that weight distribution, and as well to train that appropriate acceleration curve of starting fast and getting faster.
I think a good comparison, rather than light muscle snatches versus heavy muscle snatches, might be when you're looking for a tool for a certain job is really heavy muscle snatches versus heavy snatch high pulls. So the snatch high pull is interesting when you compare it to the full snatch. So the height, the maximum barbell height that is achieved during max snatch grip high pull, even with the same weight, is lower than the height the barbell achieves in a full snatch by the same lifter. And this is very consistent across lifters due to the nature of getting under the barbell. The extra velocity and height you add to the full snatch is consistently just a little bit higher than snatch grip high pulls. So I think with the use of really heavy muscle snatches, you'll get a better carryover and better intention and application of speed and power in that really heavy muscle snatch, because you just don't get it in a snatch grip high pull. A lifter is just not able to put in as much, I think, when it comes to it as compared to a really heavy muscle snatch. So I think that intention and that knowledge that you have to rip on this barbell and use your upper body as much as possible and your lower body as much as possible to get the barbell overhead, I think there's a lot of benefit to that, and depending on the lifter, it might be more useful in certain circumstances than the snatch grip high pull. So I think this kind of comes down to where is the lifter in their weightlifting career. For example, for these lifters, the Chinese lifters, we see them doing this a lot. It's probably not going to negatively impact their snatch technique in any meaningful fashion. You know, their snatch technique is well ingrained and they're always working on it and improving it. If we compare it to, for example, a lifter who can snatch 50 kilos but can muscle snatch like 45 kilos or something, this is almost certainly, this kind of a heavy maximal muscle snatch will have a negative impact on their snatch. But for example, you know, if you compare it to someone like this, he can probably snatch like 165, 170 in a imagine. So his ability and the difference between these, you know, he's a very technically professional lifter. He's well established, well experienced. His technique in the snatch is well ingrained into his motor habits. So I don't think this is going to have a negative, and I think the positive is probably beneficial for them. I think the real negative here is that we do know that really heavy muscle snatches are painful, and we know they're almost as painful as max front squats. And so in this scenario, especially when we see this one side locking out slower, this uneven loading from side to side, I think the real negative here is that heavy muscle snatches done frequently enough definitely have the potential for injury. So I would say that's a really important factor here, and unfortunately they get there real fast. You know, you can go from a lift that's perfect and you can add 2 kilos to a heavy muscle snatch and all of a sudden you're pressing the barbell from your nipples. So I think the real here and definitely in this case is that overextension, and that kind of difference in pressing from side to side is certainly a negative, so something you need to watch for.
The other thing I think that can be advantageous here with the heavier muscle snatches is that strength of like fixation, you driving your elbows and your shoulders hard to lock out. That doesn't really come along with a lot of other things, you know. Even with snatch balances, snatch grip pressing from behind the neck, all those things, your shoulders are in a very different position, you know. We tend to be much more externally rotated, whereas at the top of our snatch pulls, we're very internally rotated if we're keeping our elbows high and our knuckles pointed down. So I think there definitely is merit in getting very bullshit strong, for want of a better word, in that kind of overhead pressing and that fixation of the bar overhead. I can think it certainly can carry over quite well into your snatch itself.
One final point on these, I think, is that if you look at the fatigue to kind of cost analysis, heavy muscle snatches, while might feel difficult, aren't that fatiguing in terms of the loading of weightlifting. For example, if you compare it to a max snatch deadlift or a max back squat, the fatigue is much higher when it comes to this. So these are quite difficult, perceived difficulty, and they're very limiting in terms of their ability to lift heavy weights, especially as you get better. So it is quite beneficial for a lifter to push themselves in a session without actually fatiguing themselves that much, and while hopefully still getting some benefit. So quite interesting. Moving on then to the absolute, speaking of horses on gear, we have Akbar Jurayev just before this at the Islamic Solidarity Games did 200 kilo snatch and 246 kilo clean and jerk. The 246 seems to be PB as a 109 plus.
We were literally sitting at the desk here recording the video you've just watched, which is all the same video, and this popped up as a little live stream and we could not include it.
So Narzan Nuradinov won the 109s, the sub 109 category, and I assume for the medal sweep and more gold medals for Uzbekistan at the Islamic Solidarity Games, they obviously pushed Akbar up to the 109 pluses, and as a way of getting a heavier training day in. It looks like that 246 could be PB, because the heaviest we've seen from him is 242 in training, so it's very possible that 246 is. So here's it. Like, it's very interesting. His technique is getting better still.
Yeah.
At heavier weights, he's getting faster.
I'd like to see what the change in body weight is, you know, because is that technical proficiency coming from him just being a bit more solid,
denser?
Yeah, not that he could have gotten much more dense, but
yeah,
it's interesting to see. Like, he kind of has no ceiling now, you know, with this. He kind of just, whether it's a temporary jump up or a more permanent thing, he's definitely nowhere near the weight he would be if he was competing as a super heavy.
The interesting thing about this is he's moving his feet much more aggressively again in terms of technique changes. So his clean timing is superb and always was, even when he didn't move his feet. You know, he almost had a no foot snatch or no foot clean, and now he's really aggressively moving them. And it's very interesting to see those changes and see how positively impacts his lifting. So Akbar so fucking strong as well. Like, I think we've seen him snatch grip deadlift like 270 without straps. There's definitely a clip of it from a few months ago. Like, he is so fast, so agile, so mobile. Shouldn't be able to jerk with that wide of a grip and those long of an arms, but yet here he is jerking 246.
I love the jerk. He really presses the barbell high. Like, there's no sneaking under a bar, you know. It's really patient, driving his arms up all the way through. It's a phenomenal jerk.
His position in the dip and drive is insane. Like, he's hip control, pelvis control, lower back control, knee tracking is immaculate because he's so fucking strong. It's he's a great fucking lifter.
Yeah.
The if there was a man who could move up to the super heavies and challenge last in the clean and jerk, look at the 246. Like, here he can't be more than 115 here.
I was just about to say he's conceivably 80 kilos lighter.
Yeah, so imagine if he went to 130, 140.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely tall enough, I'd imagine. So he could like 215.
He has the frame to support it as well, you know.
215, 270. It looks like this unfettered use of sports super supplements. I can only imagine. Tell me you couldn't see it's him 270 there.
No,
at least
absolutely.
265. And if you knew 65, you knew 270.
Yeah.
No, I
if there's anything to be gained from this video, it's that between him and Lou, the next year or year and a half is going to be a very exciting time.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.